fans, in a previous episode, a few minutes ago, we discussed who owns what exactly, speculation-wise. Specifically the Spider-Man, because so many characters are Spider-centric in Marvel.
Yeah, there's a lot of things we know that obviously Marvel owns, or aka Disney. There's a lot of things we know that
Fox.
that Fox owns, generally in the X franchise.
Then, of course, there's a disputed Quicksilver Scarlet Witch.
Both claim ownership of each, and I'm not sure. They're both, as far as I know, going forward with making versions of each. That leads into, as I say, with Spider-Man. Okay, the following characters made their debut in Spider-Man. The Punisher, Jigsaw, who's one of the Punisher's main villains, the Kingpin, who's one of Daredevil's main villains, of course the entire Sinister Six, J. Jonah Jameson, who's popular right throughout the Marvel Universe,
His son.
his son John, who's the Man-Wolf, or also a superpowered astronaut at times. But there's quite a few characters that cross over into other people and become either they have been heroes in other people's world, or I mean, they become heroes or they become the main villain of other heroes. Now, Kingpin, does he belong to Marvel now that Daredevil reverted back, or is there, does he belong to Spider-Man? He was in. There was a Kingpin in a version of the Kingpin in, of course, the Daredevil film.
The Black Kingpin, but it was still Wilson Fisk.
Yeah.
Now, the one that comes to mind that probably Marvel has the absolute rights to is the Punisher. He had his own film, they have the film rights back to the Punisher.
That would make sense, but due to the fact that there were going to be versions of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver in both the Avengers and the X films, because they, each claim ownership of it, because Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver debuted in the X-Men, of course, but then later on they became Avengers.
Most prominently, they're Avengers.
So,
But they are Magneto's kids, in at least comics.
yeah, but that in one version, apparently in the Avengers versions, they're not Magneto's children, but they are are going to be in the X movies. So,
They very carefully dance around the word mutants at the end of Avengers to call them miracles.
yeah. So that makes me lead to wonder: could there be a Punisher in the Spider-Man universe that's different from the Punisher in the Marvel universe?
And here's another interesting thought. We're talking about the crossovers. The Frightful Four, of course, are Fantastic Four villains, but Paste Pot Pete started out as a Spider-Man.
He was a Spider-Man villain that debuted in Strange Tales. Of course, Sandman is in the Frightful Four.
And he's clearly a Spider-Man villain.
Yeah. The other ones, I think, are Inhuman, so that should probably be pretty fine as far as I'm sure that they own I guess they own the Inhumans anyway.
One of the rumored films, actually, for Marvel Phase 3 is an Inhumans film.
See, then that leads to complications then.
Because the Inhumans are
The Inhumans,
originally.
they debuted in Fantastic Four. And I just like to say, I don't know how the contracts were. I may look around at some point, and I'm sure if
Could
I
be a
can find them.
follow-up episode.
I imagine that Chris can find them. He knows most things about this kind of stuff. About who they actually do own, what studio owns what, and obviously, I guess if they each feel they own something, they're going to go ahead and put them in there, as we see with the Quicksilver Scarlet Witch example.
Right. And it's one neither side really was willing to back down on. If challenged, of course, Disney's being Disney, they're going to try to push anybody around that gets in their way.
Yeah. Let's say that whole Disney pushing around. I mean, they have the Star Wars franchise now. They have the X franchise, or the Marvel franchise. They're already in the dispute over movie release dates with Captain America 3 versus the DC
Superman,
Justice
Batman.
League film, or is it Superman, Batman? Yeah, Superman, Batman. We'll see who backs off of that, if anybody does. To me, DC has more to lose by sticking to that date, because they have to have Superman, Batman go over big. And frankly, Marvel, I'm sure it would appreciate Captain America 3 going over big. It's not going to make or break them whether it does or not. But this would make or break DC.
Absolutely. And going back to the whole Spider-Man universe, we've talked about how many people have branched out. How many comics has Doc Ock been the villain
Oh,
over the years?
many comics. I mean, he's mainly a Spider-Man villain, but he ends up fighting pretty much everybody in the Marvel Universe at one time or
of?
another.
He actually may be my favorite all-around Marvel villain.
He is an excellent villain. Alfred Molina played him wonderfully in Spider-Man 2, and that's what made it the best film of the franchise, in my opinion. Of course, Norman Osborn had a huge role in recent Marvel comics through the Civil War era and things like that.
Right, actually, I mean, he became the head of, he dissolved S.H.I.E.L.D. and became the head of Hanma.
Yeah.
So obviously you're never going to see that story.
Of course, I mean, as I said, he had was an Iron Patriot?
He was the Iron Patriot.
I mean, huge implications from him throughout the Marvel Universe. I mean, Norman Osborn's basically the Lex Luthor of the Marvel Universe.
Yeah. Businessman slash supervillain, except he's actually a better character.
Now, you can work around some of the stuff with Norman, though, and just have someone else. Who knows, though, on other things, like I said, as we mentioned with the Punisher scene, I don't know. I mean, if you debuted in Spider-Man, it seems like you would be a Spider-Man character, as Venom debuted possibly from years ago when Marvel sold the rights separately
And for that matter,
to the Punisher. Maybe that's what happened.
did Cloak and Dagger debut in Spider-Man? I know they played some prominent, there's a few issues where they in Spider-Man.
I don't think they debuted in an issue of Spider-Man. It's possible. I can't remember. I could have told you at one time. I want to say it's an issue of Marvel Fanfare or something along those lines, but I could be mistaken.
But you know, they've been prominent in storylines in Spider-Man, X-Men, and Avengers. So,
Yeah, Daredevil as well.
and you know, back to the Daredevil thing, with them actually about to kick off the Netflix original Daredevil series. Will Kingpin wind up being in that?
That's what I don't know. I mean, Kingpin, he was just pretty much, Spider-Man's got all these great villains, Daredevil needs one. And, you know, Kingpin's also right near the top of Punisher villains,
Yeah.
along with Jigsaw, who was in in the second Punisher film. Jigsaw debuted in Spider-Man 161 or 162, one of the two of those. I think 162. He was originally a Spider-Man villain. It's just they spawn a lot of Spider-Man villains off of, as we talked about the Frightful Four and things like that. If you needed a villain,
Go to Spidey's catalog.
On you out a couple of Spider-Man villains.
Well, I mean, when they kicked off the new Avengers series after that horrible Brian Michael Bendis disassembled mess that I just personally hated, their very kickoff, the prominent villain who caused everything was Electro.
Yeah.
Good green and yellow suit Electro at that.
I do like good green and yellow suit. There's a lot of Spider-Man villains to go. I mean, you got the entire Sinister Six. Whether it's going to be the actual Sinister Six, the original one from comics or not, who knows? There's been quite a few incarnations over the years. It debuted in Spider-Man Annual #1 many years ago. Rhino's probably going to be in it. Rhino wasn't one of the originals. I don't know whether they're going to introduce Mysterio and he's going to be in it or not. There's this thing you can go at the end of it. You could, I believe, send a text out maybe to some number or something. You can get some scenes from it, from Alicia Keys' video. It's very strange. I don't think you have to watch the end credits to see. Or just Google the explanation. And they show pictures of the Goblin's glider. Goblin's not an original member of the Sinister Six.
No, Goblin is he even around at the point of the Sinister Six?
He's around, but he's just not in it. It was, Octopus, Kraven, who I would love to see them introduce Kraven and do a Kraven's Last Hunt story, but that's way down the road if it happens at all.
Boy, that's an R-rated one, most likely just for the end. I'll tell you another Spider villain that I always really enjoyed, and he was more of an 80s Spider villain, Puma.
Yeah,
Really enjoyed the Puma.
I believe he debuted in Spider-Man number 257. But he was a good villain.
Of course, with Venom, you're obviously eventually possibly going to spawn off Carnage.
Yeah, like I said, the problem they run into, as we discussed on a previous episode, though, becomes what heroes can you use? I mean, it helps if they incorporate a version of the Punisher into it. I mean, the Punisher is sort of a hero anyway. Whether you come in with something with a man-wolf and make him a hero instead of a villain.
You know,
Who
and-
knows how that would go, though.
Right, and, you know, obviously, we are gonna see a lot of the crossovers, like we were discussing last night, where unless they do team with Fox, where Nightcrawler and Spider-Man are working on the Sniper case, and it turns out to be the Punisher, so.
You got the Madam Web angle you can possibly use at some point, where Madam Web, she's like a psychic. You know who the New Warriors debuted in that issue of Spider-Man.
It's true. See if they could get Iceman and Firestar, we could have an Amazing Friends movie.
Nova was already around, but some of the other New Warriors were not.
Night Thrasher and some of them. Well, fans, we're reaching the end of our time. We'll see you next time on Nerd Word.